Following Donald Trump's bungled address in the Oval Office to inform the public about the coronavirus, both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders released their own address today. And I think it's important to hear what they had to say, especially since they're the two frontrunners in the Democratic Party for the general election. Now, they had very different messages, and I want you to pay close attention to that. Let's start off with Joe Biden railing against Donald Trump and the type of language he used during his Oval Office address.
Yesterday, we announced a public health advisory committee of experts who will continue to counsel my campaign and me, help guide our decisions on the steps to minimize further risks. And we will lead by science. The World Health Organization now has officially declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Downplaying it, being overly dismissive, or spreading misinformation is only going to hurt us and further advantage the spread of the disease. But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia. Labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus does not displace accountability for the misjudgments that have been taken thus far by the Trump administration. Let me be crystal clear. The coronavirus does not have a political affiliation. It will infect Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike, and will not discriminate based on national origin, race, gender, or zip code. It will touch people in positions of power as well as the most vulnerable in our society. And it will not stop. Banning all travel from Europe or any other part of the world may slow it, but as we've seen, it will not stop it. And travel restrictions based on favoritism and politics rather than risk will be counterproductive.
So he looks fine there, and so I'm happy to see that. I'm a little relieved to see that, and he looked way better than Trump, and I'm not surprised about that. But there are two parts of this. One is, will Joe Biden and his team be competent in a response to something like this if he's president? The other is, what is their policy regarding healthcare? So they look competent so far, good. The policy, on the other hand, is not good.
One thing I'll add is, he mentioned the travel bans and how Trump is very selective in which countries are facing the travel ban based on politics. But why don't you call him out on business interests? Because there are European countries, the UK, for instance, where he has his resorts, and he hasn't implemented a travel ban when it comes to the UK. So I don't know why they don't go after, all of Trump's violations on the emoluments clause and how he has used this office to enrich himself. Whatever, it's a small thing, it doesn't matter. I don't want to be too distracted by that. But he does end up talking a little bit about, how this is going to hurt certain people economically, and he talks about how they should be protected. Let's hear what he has to say.
This crisis will hit everyone, but it will hit folks who live paycheck to paycheck the hardest, including working people and seniors. Another tax cut to Google or Goldman or millionaires won't get the job done. Another tax cut to these folks will not get the job done. Indiscriminate corporate tax subsidies won't effectively target those who really need the help now. We need to place our focus on those who are struggling just to get by. People are already losing jobs. We need to replace their wages. That includes workers in the gig economy who lack unemployment insurance. Parents who are already struggling with child care costs. We need to give them relief. Children who rely on school lunches. We need to provide food for them. Schools will need to help in ensuring children who don't have easy access to computers can still learn if their schools shut down. People who have difficulty paying their rent or mortgage because they've been laid off or had their hours cut back, need to help them to stay in their apartments and their homes. It's a national disgrace that millions of our fellow citizens don't have a single day of paid sick leave available to them. We need both a permanent plan for paid sick leave and an emergency plan for everyone who needs it due to the outbreak now.
So look, I think that response was fine, but my issue is that just dealing with the symptoms of a broken system, especially when you face an emergency like a pandemic, isn't enough, right? So he talks about the people who are just getting by. Well, thank you for acknowledging them. I'm glad that they're finally being acknowledged, right? But why do we live in a country that's as wealthy as this and have people who are just getting by? Why is it that 44% of Americans are literally living paycheck to paycheck right now? Why is it that all it takes is one small emergency for people to find themselves in financial ruin? So these are devastating symptoms of a broken system that he has protected over and over again. I mean, it's not like he just came into power. I mean, he was a member of Congress for decades. And as far as I know, based on what he voted on, based on his record, based on the things that he was willing to cut, he wasn't some champion for the social programs that people desperately need. He wanted to cut Social Security, for instance.
So the policy goes into two buckets. One is what Joe Biden's talking about here, another is healthcare. We're gonna get to healthcare in a second. But on this bucket, the Democrats are half good, half terrible. So the half good is they're pushing right now for paid sick leave, because if you get the coronavirus, a quarter of the workers in America don't get any paid sick leave from their employers. So that's it, you don't get a paycheck. Well, if nearly half the country can't survive a $400 problem, well, that's a $400 problem. And so we're gonna bankrupt everyone who's in that 44% if they get sick. So Democrats are pushing for that. Joe Biden is pushing for that. They're pushing for unemployment insurance because a lot of folks are getting laid off because businesses are slowing down. So those are the good parts of what the Democrats do, and significantly better than Republicans. That's why in the general elections, yes, you should vote for Democrats over Republicans because at least they have those good policies. By the way, a heartbreaking fact, in New York City, 114,000 kids are homeless that go to the New York City schools. They get free food at the schools. When they don't go to schools, when the schools get shut down, they go hungry. So this is the America we live in. Now, the bad parts of Biden's policies and the Democratic Party's policies. Well, Biden is the author of the bankruptcy bill. That's what doesn't allow you to discharge your debts, especially if you're a student. He was back then known as the senator from MBNA, which was a credit card company. His nickname was that he was a senator from a credit card company, because he wanted to make sure that the credit card company could crush you and make sure that they get everything out of you and make sure that they can attach your paycheck so that they can get money from that.
I mean, it was so bad that it inspired Elizabeth Warren to get involved in politics, right?
That's right.
So I'm really happy that she endorsed Bernie Sanders. Oh yeah.
She hasn't. Okay. So last thing on that, Biden has been part of the folks who gave tax cuts for the rich, imprisoned the poor, didn't let young people or almost anyone get rid of their debts, etc. So that created the environment in which nearly half the country can't survive a $400 problem.
Yep.
So for him to now complain about it and offer half proposals, well, I'm glad it's at least half, because the Republicans don't even do that much. But it's a little rich to say as if he had nothing to do with it. So the bucket that Biden did not address at all, though, is healthcare. We're talking about healthcare in this case. Coronavirus, it's not, it has residual effects on your pocketbook and your employment, but mainly Biden is against Medicare for all. So he believes in a system where if you get sick, including from COVID-19, well, you should pay your deductible. And if you can't afford your deductible, that's your problem, not Biden's problem. And if you don't have insurance, God help you, maybe you go to the emergency room at the end when it might or might not be too late. So that is the system that Biden believes in. He says, public option will help around the edges. We have 27 million people that are uninsured. So there's only one candidate in the race who believes that if you get the coronavirus, that it should be free to treat you. That if your house is on fire, it should be free to put the fire out. If you're about to die, it should be free to treat you, because that is what every other developed country does. But Joe Biden does not believe in that. The media will never tell you that, even though it's the most obvious fact in the world. They'll tell you he's against Medicare for all, but they'll never explain the ramifications of it. And the ramification is, if you have the coronavirus, that's your problem, not Joe Biden's problem. That's an uncomfortable fact, but it's still a fact. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.